Hello, readers of AI Magazine. This is Konstantinos Katsikopoulos. I'm a professor of behavioral science at the University of Southampton in the UK, and I want to give you a brief summary of a forthcoming article together with Marc, who at the time was a student at New York University's School of Law and currently is a public defender in Washington, D.C. The reason for our work is that we wanted to critically examine what we saw as hyperbole about what AI can and cannot do with regards to human behavior. More specifically, in some parts of business and science, there's the claim that big data analytics, which is simply the application of standard statistical and machine learning algorithms, but to much more data, that such analytics can already currently explain and predict human behavior. So we drew from the behavioral sciences broadly construed to include areas such as business and law to provide conceptual arguments and empirical evidence with regards to this claim. So now for the first part of the claim that big data analytics can explain human behavior, our conclusion is that because this analytics is typically designed to be atheoretical, it cannot specify the processes that underlie and eventually lead to human behavior. This is hampering discussion between citizens, lawmakers, and other decision makers. For example, if you consider the case of the US 2016 election, big data analytics is not providing an explanation of why Americans voted for Donald Trump as opposed to Hillary Clinton. Such explanations, however, do exist in the behavioral sciences. For example, in history, Alan Lichtman has proposed since 1980 that voters construct 13 binary features, then they tally those and they use a simple threshold rule to make their decision. With regards to the second part of the claim, that already big data analytics currently can predict human behavior, what we did was to perform a review of the evidence as had been published for the most part outside AI, but in some cases inside AI and machine learning as well, about how certain algorithms compare to simple heuristics like the one I just described you. By algorithms here we have in mind things such as classification and regression trees, random forests, support vector machines, deep learning, and so on and so forth. As a second example of a heuristic that people could use, consider the case of criminal profiling. Let's say that what we're trying to predict is the location of the home of a serial offender, and we know the locations of the previous crime. The circle heuristic simply suggests to take the two crimes that in terms of their location are furthest apart, connect them with a line, call that the diameter of a circle, and then the prediction is that the offender's home lies somewhere within that circle. So such simple heuristics have been found overall to perform very, very competitively compared to standard algorithms from statistics and machine learning. On the average, performance is very similar, and both families of models have regions of superior performance, which of course is the scientific thing that we're trying to explain, and we discussed that a little bit in the article as well. Nevertheless, what cannot be concluded is that big data analytics consistently outperforms very simple heuristics from psychology. So we conclude in a constructive note, our proposal is that to aid the development and testing of big data analytics, that field can draw from the behavioral sciences. It can use simple heuristics that have been developed in psychology as inspiration and as benchmark for big data analytics. We also point out in the article that there is many labs across the world, such as Tom Griffith's lab at Princeton or Eric Schultz's lab at the Max Planck Institute for Biological Cybernetics, that are currently performing such work, and we give plenty of references. So I hope I interest you in reading the article, and thank you very much for listening, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation.